Hi, this is Joe Bolen, and we're going to finish up our very simple calculator, and we're going to put the code in place to make our calculator work, and we're going to test it and see if we've got everything done correctly. We started with our user interface design with a simple paper sketch of the window that we're going to create. We had some pseudocode, and then we went in and created the user interface Windows form, called main form in this case. And then we're now have documented in the code the things that we want to do with the comment called apostrophe to do colon, so that we know the tasks that are ahead for us. Let's get into our code and see how to finish up our project. I have on the screen the design of our Windows form, and this was called main form, and I also have our code, and we had just begun the process of starting to code in our code, and we have our to-do list, and if I use the Control-Alt-K, I can bring up my tasks list to see all the tasks I have before me to work on, and you'll see the next thing I need to work on is to work on the convert text to string on line number 40. So with that being said, let's get into the code and get that code ready to go. So I'm going to take out the to do at this point and make it just a comment, and here we're going to put in the process of actually converting the information from the text boxes and put them into our different numeric data types that we've defined up above. So I'm going to use the double try-parse command on that. This is a method to convert a string value. In this case, I'm going to convert the first number text box, taking in the text properties of that. So I'm taking the text property of the first number text box from our form, and then I'm going to convert it. In this case, the second augment that I pass in is my numeric value that I've defined, in this case, first number. Okay, so that gets my first number text box text, which is a string, converts it, if it is converts correctly, to a double data type first number. I'm going to do that also for the second one. And here's where I bring in the second number text box, get the text property of it, and put it in the second number data type. So that is the process of taking this information and converting it from a string to a numeric data type. And I used the try-parse. There's other methods that I could use, but all the other methods, if I failed to enter in the information correctly, would give me an exception error and cause the program to halt, or I'd have to code around that. With the try-parse, if in fact somebody keys in something that's not a number into these two different text boxes, what will happen is the first and second number values will end up being 0. They'll have their they will not get initialized. They'll have their original default data initial value, which is 0, set for these, and not change. If they are valid numeric values that are string that can be parsed into a number, then the number will take on its value. So we've got that done. Now we need to take care of actually processing the information and getting our sum. And this is perhaps the easiest one for all of us. Is we're just going to have sum, and we're going to assign sum. In other words, the location of memory where sum is pointing, we're going to assign to it first number plus second number. And that is all is needed. Very simple calculation. We're taking the first number and the second number values, we're adding them together, and then we're assigning with the equal sign, we're assigning to the location where our sum variable is pointing to on that. And then our last part that we want to do is take sum and output it to the screen. So first of all, we're going to get rid of the extra to-do statement because we're going to process it now. It'll just be a comment that tells what we're going to do. Now, we're going to put the output, according to our code, to the result value label. So I'm going to type in result value label. We're going to put it into the text property of that one. We use the equal sign to assign something to that location or property, and we're going to put in the sum. Now that'd be our tempting way to go, but remember we have to convert it to a string type. Right now it's a numeric double data type, and one of the ways we can do it is use our Visual Basic convert string and do it that way. This is a Visual Basic conversion, and I'm going to show you also one thing that I had not shown you before on comments is we can have an inline comment, and this is, I'm going to just say Visual Basic conversion. Okay, so I've documented that I'm basically using a Visual Basic conversion. Also, to remind you, I can put my cursor on that function, hit my F1 key, and I'll bring up the help information about the convert to string function that's available to me. So with that done, let's give it a quick test of this module that we've got now completed. And let's do a F5 or start on this menu and try out just our addition. So I'm going to take 23.43 and I'm going to put in my second number as 15.23 on that. I'm going to hit my add button, which will bring this particular procedure into activity, and we'll see that I get 38.66. So we processed that out. But let's now add some more stuff to this. I'm going to add a lot bigger field. Let's make it really big. That looks pretty good. I'm going to just leave the second one alone. Now I'm going to hit add again. And notice that I've got the value came out fine. What if I add more here to the decimal side and add it? It comes out fine. But one of the things that I wanted to have happen is to have this with the commas. It makes it easier to read. So I've got this working correctly. We're doing the addition when we hit the button, but it doesn't look very pretty when we write it with just the convert to string function taking place. There are some other ways we can take care of that, and let's take a look at that. So I'm going to close out the program. Let's take a look at another way we can do that, and what I'm going to do is come down here and add another line. And this time I'm going to use another Visual Basic conversion. It's called the string format method, and in this particular one it's a little bit more difficult to write because we have to put in quotation marks and brackets on that, and then inside the brackets I have to put in how I want to do this, and then this being the first parameter I'm passing in, and then I'm going to use what's called a numeric identifier on that, and then I'm going to have a second parameter which I'm passing in sum. Oops, let me take that quotation mark off there. And this is also a Visual Basic way to convert a numeric data type to a string, and basically the 0 here indicates this is the first, and in this case the only argument being passed in, and the colon N3 says that I want to convert this as a numeric data type output as a string, but I want to have 3 decimal points to it, and I want to have commas separating the groups of values on that. Now here's another way we can look at our comment. I'm going to come back up to the line in front of it, and I don't want to delete this line out, but I don't want this line to be active anymore, and I can put the comma in front of it as well and do that, and now I've commented out this line. Now there's another way to do that as well, and I'm going to take that back out. I can come up to the line and go up to my menu bar, and you'll see that there is a little icon to comment code and uncomment code. So I'm going to comment that code by hitting that, and you'll see I've automatically put in an apostrophe in front of this line. So now it's just a comment. I haven't gotten rid of the line. I can see what I did, but it's not active anymore. And we'll see this one function now. Let me do this one now with an F5. Let's put in some large number, put in some decimals to it, and I'll put in a smaller one here, and then I'll hit the add button. And now we see the comments have come in, and I've made it output with only 3 positions to the right of the decimal point. That's what the N3 part does. It says I want to go 3 positions to the right of the decimal point. I could have also just made this in without a number after it, and if I did that, I'd only have, it would default to 2 after the decimal point to the right on that. But I wanted to have at least a precision of 3 decimal places to the right. So this is another way we can output that using a Visual Basic conversion. But let's look at the last way, and this is the way I like to do it, and this is using the .NET Framework way of converting. So I'm going to once again use the result value label and the text property of that, and I'm going to assign it the sum, but I'm going to use the toString method of the .NET Framework. And all numerics in this case have the toString method to it, so I'm going to hit the toString. And in this case, instead of just doing this for a toString, which will give me the same thing as just having the convert string above, I'm going to put in quotation marks, N3, like that. I'm going to also comment this line of code out. So now we see that there's another way. The first 2 methods are Visual Basic methods. This last method is a .NET Framework method, and I like this a lot better for outputting because it very quickly and simply directs how the string is going to be shaped when I output it to the text property of this particular label. So let's run this one, and let's put in some values. Whoops, I got a slash in there accidentally. And let's put in another value to add to it, and I'll make it 5/3. There we go. And then I'm going to hit add, and I get my nice formatting to that. If I made this even larger and then hit add, we see our commas coming in to make it easy to read. And with the N3, I have 3 decimal places to the right of the decimal point on that. I could change that if I wanted to and make that maybe an N6, which would be a very high precision output. I'll recompile that. Let's put in some numbers again. And we'll put in some more numbers here to add to it. And I'm going to hit add. And now you see that I have precision of 6 different digits to the right of the decimal point. I have a feeling though I won't need that high level of precision, so I'm going to keep it back to a N3 output on that. So we can see that we have a number of ways to shape our string value from a numeric data type. We've got the convert to string function, we've got the string.format method, and we've got the sum toString .NET framework method on that to shape our value to a string. I personally like the third choice, and you'll see me use this throughout the series instead of the other two. Okay, well, we've got our additional area done. Let's do real quickly the next one. So we can come down here, and I'm going to quickly knock out the to-dos in the next couple of these so we can save some time. Okay. And I have things pretty much the same as before. So I'm going to grab these three up here, do a Control-C, and then I'm going to come down after this sentence and do a Control-V. But in this case, I'm dealing with difference, so instead of sum, I'm going to use difference. Okay. Then I want to do the conversion, and the conversion is exactly the same. So I'm highlighting those two lines, doing a Control-C and doing a Control-V. And then I also want to calculate the difference. And here's where I'm going to take difference, and I'm going to assign to it the first number minus the second number. And that'll give me my difference. And then once again, I'm going to convert the output. And I'm going to steal real quickly this line to save some typing. I'm going to come down here and paste in a line. Control-V. But instead of sum this time, it'll be difference. Okay. And so I've got that one done as well. Let's continue on. And I'm going to, once again, take away the to-do part. Okay. Let's once again get our variables for this one. I come up and once again grab these up here, paste them in. And this time it's a product we're after, not difference. So I'm going to call it product. And the process of converting to a double data type is exactly the same. So I'm going to copy that information in. And now I'm going to do the process of taking the product, and I'm going to assign to the product the first number. In this case, we're going to do times the second number, and that'll give that information. And then I want to convert that as well to a string to go to our label. So I'm copying and pasting that in, but changing it to product. Okay, and let's go to the next one. And once again, I'm going to take those out. Get the comments off, changed to just not to-dos. You'll see me go through and do the same kind of process here. Copy, paste in. This will be the quotient, though, not the product. Okay. I'm going to do the convert, and it's exactly the same again. I'm going to do now the process here. Now, there is something a little bit different about division. And that is the divide by zero issue. We're not going to look at that as a problem right now, but we're going to address it later on. So I'm going to do first number divided, and we use the slash for the division of the second number. And that gives me the quotient, and then I'm going to take that value of the quotient and output it as well. But instead of proc that I copied, I'll change it to quotient. Okay. And the clear is a little bit different. For the clear area, we want to do something very special. And I'm going to first show you what we've got thus far, and then we'll come in and finish up with the clear button. So let's run the compiler and compile it with debug. So I'm going to put in a number. Let's do 123.456, and I'm going to add to it 987.543. And so we can test our add again. We can also click on the minus now and see the difference of the minus. We got the minus because we have a larger value than the top value, and so we get a negative. We can see the multiplication of the two together, and we can see the division, which gives us a small number when we do the division. But we will also want to code in the clear. And the clear, we want to wipe out these values, and we want to position our cursor back up into our first number text box. So that is the task before us, is to clear these out and then get our focus back to the first number text box. So let's do that. Okay, I'm going to uncomment my to-dos, make them just comments now. And the first thing I'm going to do is clear my controls. So one of the controls is a result value label, its text properties, and I can assign it a empty string like this, which is one way, or I can use the string empty approach to do it. I like this method better. It makes it smaller on the compiler. Then we have our two text boxes, and so we have first text box, first number text box, and we have the text property on that. And once again, I could use the equal sign without anything in between it. I could also use the string empty. But one thing nice about a text box is we have what's called a method called clear. So I'm going to just hit CLER, and that clear method will clear out the text box. And I'll do the same thing for the second number text box. Use the clear method. Okay, at this point I've cleared out the controls. A label doesn't have the clear method to it. I have to use the string.empty method, but I do have the clear method for the text boxes, so I'm using the clear method there. Now the last task is to position the cursor to the first number text box. So I'm going to go to first number text box, and there is a special method called focus, and focus sets the input to the control. In this case, it's going to bring the cursor up to the first number text box. And there we go. Let's take a look at that. We cleared out our fields. Then we hit focus to bring the cursor back to the first number text box. And let's hit start, and that'll save and compile it. Let's put in some numbers. And another one here. Okay, we can do add, subtract, multiply, division, and I can go hit the clear button, and it should wipe these all out and put my cursor in the first one. And that's exactly what we wanted to have happen. So we've got our program done at this point. There are a few things. One of the things we need to look at, and I'm going to show you just a moment after I show you the code, that we need to worry about, and that's under the division. Here's the division spot. Remember, in school, you might have learned that if you divide with a 0 here, it's undefined, and we'll see the problem here. Depending on how you have your Visual Studio set up and what version you have, you may end up with an exception error here if second number is 0. We'll see in Visual Studio 2013 and Visual Basic 2013, we get a little bit different results. So I'm going to rerun this. I'm going to take anything here. I'm just going to type in some numbers, and I'm going to put in 0 here just to enforce the fact I'm using 0. And I'm going to hit the divide, and you'll see my result becomes infinity. So I don't get an error with Visual Studio 2013 or Visual Basic 2013, but you might with other different compilers, or if you're using this for old Visual Basic 6 type coding on it. You do not want to divide by 0. Also, if I had left this blank, that would also end up being a divide by 0, and I get the same thing. So we can double test this with some other numbers. And let's say I type in my name here for that. Well, obviously this is not going to work with the try parse, and it will result in a value of 0. And so this other one will also be bad because it has a dash in between, so it may not convert as well. So let's see what happens when I try to do this. I get 0 for both of them. Now let's correct the first one. I'll put a decimal point in there and take away that minus sign. Try it again. I'll get the correct value because Joe will turn out to be just 0, and it'll process correctly. So I can try this different ways, and once again Joe's going to be seen as 0 for division and give us infinity on that. So we don't get any errors when we run this, but there are a few little logic flaws that we might want to fix as we make this more professional on that. So we've got our Visual Basic program completed at this point. You've got your hands hopefully a little dirty now in the code. You've seen us go from the very beginning concepts of a sketch design of the Windows form, some of the pseudocode behind it. Then we went in and actually designed the form itself. Then we went to the code, and we started out just commenting our code, putting in to-do information to make certain that we address under each of the different routines that we're going to work with, that we have to code some code behind that. And then we also finished out coding it out. Now, one last thing we want to check is, did we leave anything in that to-do list undone? And hopefully I'll see nothing in my to-do list. So let's go back at the code and take a quick look. Okay, I'm going to take a look at my to-do list task list, and it's all cleared out and emptied. It's all done. I've filled in all my tasks. My code, in fact, is done. So we've got everything completed. We've done some testing. We've got a very simple calculator working, and you'll need to code it in yourself, try it yourself, get your hands a little dirty in this code, and find out how I did it. Go back into the video and take a look at each of the stages we went through, and you'll see how I coded and went through the process from the conception through to the very end. So take care, have a good day, and come back and see us again.